I positioned myself atop him, straddling his hips, and the sensation of being there, elevated above him with every inch of our bodies so intimately close, was nearly overwhelming. It was a line I swore I'd never cross, but in that moment, all bets were off. Welcome to Hidden Love Stories. Have you ever felt a pull so strong it defies all logic? Today's story is about a connection that blurs every line imaginable. Get comfortable and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge everything you think you know about love. My name is Chloe and I'm 20 years old. The story that unraveled my world happened just last summer when I flew home from my college in California. It was a spontaneous decision, a delicious secret I kept just for myself. I pictured my parents' shocked faces, the warm hugs, the joyful chaos of my surprise return as I dragged my suitcase down the familiar tree-lined streets of my small Midwestern hometown. A smile played on my lips, but when I pushed open our front door, ready for the fanfare, I was met with an unnerving silence. They weren't home. A wave of disappointment washed over me, but it was quickly broken by a familiar voice calling my name. It was Liam, my younger brother, who had just turned 18. He stood at the top of the stairs, and my breath caught. He was taller than me now, with a broad-shouldered frame and a confident grin that lit up the hallway. "Chloe," he said, his voice deeper than I remembered. I dropped my bags and we met in a tight embrace. It was easy and familiar, but as he pulled away, I couldn't shake the thought that the boy I'd left behind was gone, replaced by someone far more mature, someone I barely recognized. Once he headed back to his room, I closed the door and let out a long, weary sigh. The house was still, but it was a peaceful quiet that I desperately needed. After the long, grueling journey from my dorm, I felt a desperate need to wash away the exhaustion. The first thing I did was head straight for the shower. As the hot water cascaded over my skin, I felt the stress of a brutal semester. The relentless assignments and looming deadlines finally begin to melt away. I let my shoulders relax, releasing a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Afterward, I slipped into a comfortable, charming dress and padded barefoot to my room. The space was a time capsule, with my old posters still on the walls and my favorite patterned sheets on the bed. It felt like coming home to an older version of myself, but as I sank onto the mattress, a familiar ache surfaced. The demands of school had left no room for a personal life. I'd missed the simple feeling of closeness. There had been fleeting encounters, sure, but nothing real or meaningful had taken root. As I lay there, mindlessly scrolling through my phone, my thoughts drifted. I let my fingers trace the curve of my collarbone, a primal urge for connection, for a bond I hadn't felt in so long. I was just beginning to truly unwind when a soft knock on my door shattered the quiet. My heart leaped into my throat. "Chloe?" Liam's voice came from the other side. I quickly smoothed my dress and told him to come in. He paused at the doorway before entering, and I could tell something was weighing on him. He sat awkwardly on the edge of my bed, running a hand through his hair. I waited, giving him the space he needed. Finally, he started talking about his girlfriend. I'd always thought they were the perfect high school couple, young and carefree. But he revealed that beneath the surface, their relationship was a battlefield of relentless arguments over nothing and everything. He felt exhausted, constantly trying to meet expectations that were impossible to reach. He confessed that the relationship was crushing him. As he spoke, I saw him in a completely new light. The boy I used to tease was gone. In his place was a man with a quiet maturity and a depth I had never noticed before. His features were sharper, his presence more confident, and he had an undeniable allure that made it difficult to look away. He admitted he'd thought about ending it, but didn't know if he had the strength. I wanted to offer him some profound wisdom, but words felt empty, so I did the only thing that felt natural. I pulled him into a hug. It wasn't a routine gesture, it was real, a silent promise that I was there for him. But as he relaxed into my embrace, something shifted in the air. I was suddenly hyper-aware of everything. The way his hair brushed against my cheek, the faint scent of his cologne, the slowing of his breath. My thoughts became a whirlwind. Why did I persist, refusing to retreat? My fingers found their way to his jaw, softly tracing the line down to his neck. It was an innocent touch, yet it felt charged with an unspoken energy. Then, in a spontaneous move that seemed to bypass thought entirely, I took his hand and guided it to my leg. He stiffened for a second, surprised, but he didn't pull away. His hand rested where I had placed it, his hesitation mixed with a spark of curiosity. His fingers, warm against my skin, began to trace delicate circles on my thigh, moving slowly, deliberately, higher with each sweep. My heart raced and every nerve in my body tingled. Have you ever found yourself in a situation that felt both wrong and intoxicatingly right? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the conclusion of Chloe's story. Just as the moment felt like it couldn't get any more intense, the sound of the front door opening shattered the spell. We jumped apart as if burned. My heart hammered against my ribs, but now it was from pure panic. Liam's face was flushed as he quickly put distance between us. My parents' cheerful voices echoed through the house, a mix of excitement and relief. I forced myself to greet them, mumbling something about a surprise while my mind spun. The rest of the evening was a blur. I went through the motions, but my thoughts kept replaying that moment. The warmth of his hand, the electricity in the air, the way my body had responded. Sleep was impossible that night. I tossed and turned, my mind racing. Did it rattle him as deeply as it did me? The next day was a minefield of unspoken tension. Every time we passed in the hallway, the air crackled with the memory of what had happened. I found myself stealing glances at him, noticing the subtle tension in his jaw, the way his hair fell across his forehead. Was he trying to forget it, or did he feel the same pull that was consuming me? That evening, my parents announced they had to go out for a few hours. As soon as they left, the house fell into an eerie quiet. It was just me and Liam, and the silence seemed to amplify my racing thoughts. I tried to distract myself, but it was useless. The memory of his touch was too vivid, and the curiosity of what might have happened if we hadn't been interrupted was a tempting, dangerous thought. It was late when I finally gave in. My heart pounded as I walked barefoot to his room, the floorboards cool beneath my feet. I pushed the door open to see him asleep on his side, his back to me. For a moment, I hesitated. But my feet carried me forward, and before I could change my mind, I was sliding into the bed beside him. The heat from his body enveloped me. I lay there, listening to the rhythm of his breathing before my own quickened. I reached out, my fingertips brushing his arm. He stirred, his eyes fluttering open as he turned and saw me. Surprise flickered across his face. Before he could speak, I took his hand and placed it on my leg just as I had the day before. He paused, his muscles tightening, but then he relaxed into my touch. The moments that followed unfolded in a hazy, sensual blur. My senses were on fire, attuned to the warmth of his hand as his fingers moved with tentative confidence. There was a raw vulnerability in the air that made everything feel intensely real. It felt like we had crossed some invisible line, and there was no going back. Without thinking, I shifted toward him, closing the space between us. Then I nudged him decisively onto his back, my hands on his shoulders until he reclined beneath me. I positioned myself atop him, straddling his hips, and the feeling of power was intoxicating. The kiss deepened, and his hands gripped my waist, steadying himself as if the weight of the moment was too much to bear. I was in control, setting the pace, and he surrendered to it completely. Our breathing grew heavy, and I'd occasionally pull back just to look at him, his eyes half closed, his lips swollen. He was exquisite, completely unraveled beneath me. It transcended mere attraction. It was a desperate yearning to close the distance between us. Just as I was ready to take things further, to transcend the boundaries of kissing and touching, reality crashed down. I paused, my voice low. "Do you have anything?" Confusion swirled in his eyes, then dawning understanding, followed by a sheepish smile. No? I don't." I stared at him in exasperated disbelief. 18, with a girlfriend, and completely unprepared. "Seriously, Liam?" A laugh escaped my lips. "What kind of boyfriend are you?" He shrugged, looking utterly helpless. "I guess I'm not as ready as I thought." I sighed, my head falling against his chest. I didn't want to stop. I couldn't. If he wasn't ready, fine. I'd make sure he remembered this night for the rest of his life anyway. I slid down his body, my fingers grazing his thighs. His breath hitched, and his entire body tensed as if bracing for impact. I loved the way he responded to my touch, the way I could pull these reactions from him. His body was a live wire, and I was the one making it sing. When it was over, a strange mix of adrenaline and quiet settled over me. I stood up, the weight of our encounter finally sinking in. I looked at him, sprawled on the bed, his chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. He looked serene, satisfied. I cleared my throat. "So, you're not a virgin, right?" He opened his eyes, and with unwavering certainty, he shook his head. "No," he said quietly. For some reason, that single word floored me. I turned and walked out of the room, my mind a tempest of guilt and confusion. What had I just done? I'd crossed a boundary I never knew existed, and while one part of me was drowning in guilt, the other felt more alive than ever. It felt wrong, yet it had also felt undeniably perfect in a way I couldn't explain. This experience raised so many questions for me. Is it possible to feel a connection so deep that it ignores all societal rules? Are some lines meant to be crossed, or should they remain sacred? The intensity of what I felt with him was unlike anything I had ever known, a raw, visceral bond that left me questioning everything. Tonight will be etched in my memory forever, a beautiful, terrifying moment that changed everything. But was it right? Surely I can't be the only one who has ever felt something so powerful and forbidden. Could I be? Thank you for joining us on Hidden Love Stories. If this story resonated with you, please show your support by liking, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more explorations into the complicated nature of the human heart.